Welcome, everyone, to episode 62 of the Priestess Rise Up transmission. I'm so delighted to be here with you. My name is Lisa Espinosa. If it's your first time connecting with me, welcome and welcome back, all of you who've been on this journey with me for all this time. So, Priestess, first thing I want to talk about is that let's review. I know for some of you, it might be the first time you hear me speak of this, but when I talk about a priestess, there's many words. There's many. I'm burning some copal, so that's the smoke you're seeing. So there's lots of ways, other words, right? Way shower, wisdom keeper, light worker, healer, medicine woman, medicine person, shaman. You might call yourself a therapist, any other form of wellness professional, or maybe your job title label is has nothing to do with that. Maybe it's you're a lawyer or you're in the business world, but you have a calling. You have a calling and you've had it your whole life to be part of the healing of our world. And maybe you didn't call it that in the beginning, but you just knew you had this prayer, this calling, this longing to help people, to help humanity. Or maybe your calling is more to help plants or animals, but it's all to help in the evolution of the planet. And so the word that came to me that chose me was priestess, so the priestess path, but it doesn't really ultimately matter what word you use, what word resonates. And so the other common denominator, so to speak, is that the voice of your soul, even if you didn't call it that, when I was little, I didn't say, oh, I'm hearing the voice of my soul. I didn't use those words, but there was a voice, there was a sense, there was a light, there was something I was aware of that was beyond just my human understanding, that I knew there was a wise part of me or a loving part of me, something. And again, not necessarily always conscious, but I was aware of that. Later, I used the label soul. And so that's when we gather together, right? When I coach my clients, even though, my other label, or now spiritual career coach, when I coach my clients, they might not resonate with the word priestess, but all of those other things they're resonating with, right? They know, like, oh yeah, I'm here to share my unique soul's medicine. Again, they might not have said those words, but they know they're here to share their unique gifts. They're already sharing it, but there's always an up leveling. There's always the next evolution. And so what else is part of this, right? So you have your soul, and you also have your parts. And that's what we're going to talk about today. These different parts of you that are with you, that you were born with, that perhaps you had in other lifetimes as well, that we absolutely need, are so helpful, sometimes have really helped us to survive some of the most challenging parts of our lives. And yet, these parts of us can create so much static or noise or distraction that it's hard for us to hear our soul's guidance as consistently, as ongoing as we would want. Or maybe sometimes it even it's even just like you just can't discern it, right? And so these parts of us, most people are familiar with, like, the concept of your inner child, right? But the truth is, we have inner children inside of us, right? There's a little 5-year-old, there's a teenager, there's a 7-year-old, there's a 10-year-old. By the way, I did, oh my gosh, when was that? 2 years ago? I don't even know. A priestess novena that was all about your inner child. So if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, yeah, like it was about your inner teenager. That's right. If you're feeling that inner teenager really activated, you might want to go back and do that. Just look through my playlists. So anyway, most people are familiar with that. But the truth is, we have a whole family, like a whole family of parts inside of us. And so as I've been, now for 14 years, coaching clients and teaching classes and um, leading webinars and all of the things that I do, I've really come to understand that it's the work with our parts that is so essential. Like it is, because your soul is there. Your soul wants to guide you. Your soul loves you unconditionally. Your soul has the blueprint. So there's nothing you have to convince your soul of. You don't have to convince your soul that you're worthy. You don't have to, uh, what am I trying to say? Kind of like beg for your soul's attention. Your soul is there, willing and ready. What it is, part of the human condition, is we have these different aspects of us, these different parts. And that is where the true training of our priestess path comes in. And so, when I meet with potential clients for the consult, right, I offer a free breakthrough consultation, to talk, to get to know them. I guide, these, whoever signs up for it, which by the way, you can sign up for this. I guide them through a process to help them really understand what is the problem, like what is the block. And whatever the answer is, it's going to involve parts. It's going to involve these parts of us that have good intentions, but are creating static and friction and distraction. And sometimes when you're on this path long enough, I've been doing, and I want to say this is based on the internal family systems model of psychotherapy. It sounds very long, IFS. It's also found in a lot of actually, spiritual traditions, spiritual teachings, this concept of these different parts of us, and how the way forward in our evolution is to compassionately witness their pain, not drown in it, not resist it or pretend it's not there. Compassionately witness, and then be the leader of your own inner world, not be run by the parts, not be hijacked by the parts, as they say sometimes. And so as you're doing this work, it's really important to understand that sometimes, often, you might not even realize that there's a part of you that is taking up a lot of space inside, that is making it harder for you to truly come into that like clear, sovereign space, that sober space, so that you can truly hear your soul. And so we're in these times now with, there's always been suffering in the planet, because it's a world, this planet is one of duality. And at the same time, it's really amping up, right? There's a amping up of the suffering, of the polarity, of the conflict, of the planetary initiations, of the heaviness, all of that. And it's amping up because we're actually moving into a breakthrough, right? Moving into a rebirth. But those times before, those ages before that, can be incredibly painful, can involve a lot of suffering. And so this is where you come in, right? We come in, which is, again, whatever label you use, I'm going to use the word priestess, that your priestess path, your priestess journey is to be this like ambassador of peace and unconditional love. It doesn't mean that you're always calm. It doesn't mean that you don't feel strong feelings, that you don't doubt yourself. We're still human. But it does mean that there's this commitment, right? There's this discipline. There is a discipline to it, of saying, okay, I'm here as part of the solution, as part of the midwife of a new earth. And so it's very easy to say, so you just have to connect with your soul every day, and that's all you need to do, and then follow your soul's guidance. But if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. What gets in the way, and this is no judgment of our parts, is the parts, right? The parts that are scared, the parts that have old trauma, the parts that might bring trauma from past lives. So I want you to really, so let me back up a little bit. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because the times are accelerated, because there is so much suffering, because there is so much need, because your gifts, your soul's medicine is needed now more than ever. And I know that's so oversaid, but it's true. It really is true. Your medicine, your gifts, your presence is needed more than ever. And I want to clarify. Now, most of my clients that I work with, definitely part of that is their medicine in their career, right? How they share it through their work. But it's not just that. Like for you, it might be, maybe you're not in the wellness field. I have more and more clients that are not, clients that are in the business field or some other field, but they're still being called to be a priestess in that work. They might not ever use the word. They might never talk about angels and ascended masters and past lives in their workplace, but they carry that presence. They carry the love of the divine mother with them, because that's what I've come to understand as I am, settling in my new home country here in Mexico. That, I've said for a long time that my priestess calling was that of unconditional love, right? Channeling unconditional love. And I don't know why it took me this long to really put the dots together. I knew it was like a puzzle, like all the pieces were there, but I didn't really fully click in such a deep way, honestly, consciously, till this week. My birthday just passed on Monday. And it was a big, it was my first birthday here in Mexico in this lifetime. This is my ancestral home. Sorry, I'm going to move this copal because it's really burning, bringing us the healing, the cleansing. And that I really was like, oh, I'm like a priestess for the Divine Mother. Like, I know some of you who've been following me for a long time are probably like, yeah, we know that, or we thought of that since I've done so much work with Mother Mary and so many, and Our Lady of Guadalupe, and so many Divine Mother ascended masters, that hold that energy. But it was really important for me to kind of have that click happen this week, as I was in a really wonderful healing session that I did this week, that as receiving as part of my birthday gift. And so that's what it is. We're here. If you're drawn to my work, if you're watching this transmission, you're here. Part of your work is being this priestess for the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother is that mother face of God, of Creator, of the great mystery. I know the word God can have a lot of baggage, so you don't have to use that word. But when you look at what's happening in the world, what is needed is the Divine Mother, the compassion, the sobriety of the Divine Mother, the fearlessness of looking at pain, right? So if you think of a mother, when she sees her child in pain, if the mother is healthy and present, she doesn't run away from her child's pain. It might hurt her to see her child in pain, but she is there as a steady presence, as a witness, as a comforter, as a savioress at times, right? Depending on her child's age. Well, the Divine Mother is that truth, right? That energy of truth, of purity, and purity, again, not from some religious connotation of we're all sinners. No, purity in that there's nothing that's a lie in that energy. Yes, Jill, as you're saying, priestess of truth. Yes. There is this pristine, loving, merciful, compassionate, and fierce, if need be, energy. Fierce in the sense of protecting us, right? Like a mother bear, and sometimes protecting us from ourselves. And so when years ago I heard this calling for me to write my second book that I've been pregnant with forever, it seems like, of writing this book about the priestess path, now with this title, Priestess Rise Up. And I asked the question, well, priestess do so many things. And it was like, this is the path of unconditional love. And it felt so like big, but also not big enough. I mean, my ego was all over the place with this, right? In my parts. And through all the initiations I've had since that moment, I mean, not to count all the initiations of my life, of the lifetimes, but all the initiations I've had since that moment in the parking lot in the city of Chicago. I was at the parking lot of Carson's. That's not even a store anymore, I don't think. But I was there and I had that like just like download, like whoosh, my second book is gonna be this book about the priestess path. Right. And it was like, and I cried and I felt like such clarity. That was like this height of like receiving that download. And after that, it was kind of downhill. I'm not gonna lie, a little bit. When my parts, my ego got in the way of like, wait, what does that mean? What am I gonna write about? What kind of priestess? Like, how long is this gonna take? Like, can I write this faster than my first book? All the stuff that started coming. And so to come now in this moment and be like, oh gosh, yeah, always it was the Divine Mother calling. It was the Divine Mother saying, yeah, priestesses, rise up. You are here as my emissaries. You are here as my ambassadors in this world. And where does it begin? It begins with us priestessing ourselves, with us being as a Divine Mother to our own parts. So being a Divine Mother to these parts of you, the ones you love, and you're just like, oh, I'm so grateful for this part of me. She's my organizer. This is the part of me that really keeps me moving forward. Oh, maybe there's parts of you you don't like that much. Maybe there's parts of you that are really sensitive. Maybe there's parts of you that are so scared of being judged. So scared of being judged that they get in the way of you taking certain steps. Or maybe there's a part of you that's so attached to other people's opinions or other people's validation that is really making it challenging to just be present in service. By the way, I have all these parts, right? So I'm not saying any of this in any form of judgment. These are actually very normal because it's a condition of this belief that we're separate from the divine. So those parts, or maybe you have a part that's really critical of you, a self, an inner critic. So how do you show up with unconditional love for these parts? It happens as we practice stepping out of the way and letting our soul that is eternally connected to the Divine Mother, letting that unconditional love flow to all of these parts. It is a practice. It is a discipline. It takes a lot of courage. It requires so much strength to do this work. And it's interesting because the world has a lot of inversions in it. I mean, there's the ego, right? The egoic structure really likes to tell us, oh, this inner work is, at best, maybe you could say, well, it's helpful, but it's not really what makes a difference. It's helpful, but it's a little bit indulgent. It's helpful, but you should be over it already. You should be done with this inner work. It's helpful, but it's taking you way too long. It's helpful, but there's way other things that you can spend your time on that are more important. But that's simply not true. Because the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. And so what can be more important than doing this work, than practicing being a compassionate witness to ourselves? Because that is one of the most important things we're doing for humanity right now. And I know I've gone through many stages in my life, especially being a highly sensitive person, as I'm sure many of you are, where it was very overwhelming to look at the darkness in the world, to really, really witness it. And yet we've been preparing for that through our initiations, through our dark nights of the soul. And I know I keep using the word initiation. I've talked about this before, but if some of you are new to my channel or my work, an initiation is any experience where you're taken from one level of spiritual understanding, emotional maturity, emotional and mental sobriety to the next level. Now, when initiations happen, you have free will. You can decide, nope, I'm not going to learn the lesson right now. It's simply too painful. I am going to close my heart. And we all do this to some extent at some point. But when you're on when you're committed to your spiritual path, when you're on the priestess path, even if you didn't know, even if you're like, I had no idea I was on the priestess path, but now that she's talking about it, I realize I've been on this priestess path. Then you are committed to, when these initiations happen, to mine the gold of the initiation. Now, I want to be very clear. I am not talking about spiritual bypassing. Spiritual bypassing, emotional bypassing is an epidemic, especially in spiritual circles, because it can be very easy to say, well, you feel bad, but everything's going to be fine. Just think positive, just pray, and it's going to all be great. And not prayer is incredibly powerful. So I'm not dismissing that in any way. But part of the courageous mission you signed up for, and when I say you, I mean us, is to experience these emotions and let ourselves feel them. Not drown in them. This is where a coach or a therapist is really helpful. This is what I help my clients with. Because sometimes we do need the presence of someone else. We do need someone who's, a few steps ahead, or who's done this so many times, or just has that practice of being a loving witness without giving you advice, without interrupting you, without trying to minimize your pain, but also not drowning in there with you. So I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing. I'm not saying that you have an initiation and you're like, great, I'm having this initiation. This is so awesome. I'm going to move on to this next chapter of my evolution. Typically, these initiations, you're in one because you resist it, because at times, parts of you might resist it. Parts of you might think, even if you're aware, maybe you're at a point where you're like, I know I'm going through an initiation. Like, I know I'm going through one right now, moving to Mexico, having, sold all our things, let go of so much, shedding that old life, like really grounding and rooting into a new environment, not just with people, but in this earth, this land here in Mexico, right? Like, I'm going through an initiation, so I know I'm going through it. I teach about initiations, but that doesn't mean I get to skip the parts of this that are challenging. That doesn't mean that there's been plenty of times where I'm like, when is this going to be over? Or where I'm thinking I'm failing. I'm literally failing this initiation, which is a sign that you're just where you need to be. Isn't that so interesting? I remember sitting in front of my altar. I think it was before we left Chicago. No, it was in the Airbnb before this. I just remembered what room we were in. So it must have been like a month ago. And I was sitting there and I was just, I had the statue, one of the statues of Guadalupe. I was really connecting with Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I was like, I know I'm in an initiation. I can see it. I know it. I know everything I wrote in my book about it. I know what I've taught my students about it. And I feel like I'm failing it. Like, I literally said this to Guadalupe. I was like, I'm failing this initiation. And when I said that, I realized, there's a part of me that thinks I'm failing this initiation. Because it wasn't like, then I felt, Guadalupe, Our Lady of Guadalupe, or my soul say, yep, you're right, you are failing it. No, it was a part that was thinking, I should be in a different place in it. I should feel better. I should be going through it faster, or whatever. Those are all signs you're in an initiation. And so one of the biggest ones in our lifetimes here on earth that all the ascended masters went through. So who are the ascended masters? Beings like Mother Mary, beings like Kuan Yin, like Green Tara, like Ascended Master Jesus, like Ascended Master, Maha Avatar Babaji. They all had human lives. And they all went through different initiations. They all had different lives, different lessons of mastery. But definitely one of them that they had to go through was witnessing their humanity, their parts, and having compassion for them, not running away from them, not judging them, not trying to spiritually bypass, but being here. Because ascended masters, just like the bodhisattvas in Buddhism, they take a vow, this vow of service, that even as they They're ascended, they've transcended their ego. They are still here to help us who are still divine beings having a human experience. How could they help us if they never had the human experience? How could they help us to the depth of how they can help us, right? How could they mentor us in that way if they hadn't gone through their own initiations, if they didn't know how real these thoughts can feel, these self-judgments, this harshness towards ourselves, how painful that can be. And it's the same thing for you, all of the training of your life, everything you've experienced, all of your how your relationship with your parts, how that is, all of that journey is part of your soul's medicine. It's the gift you give to humanity. It's how you can show up and be present and see what's happening in the world. And I'm not saying that you get consumed with it, right? Because that's not the answer either. But that if your heart is guiding you, if the Divine Mother is saying, hey, you look at that, look at what's happening in that part of the world, not to judge it, not to go into panic or fear or helplessness, like, oh, I don't know what we can do, but to tune into your heart and do what you came here to do, which is love unconditionally. And there will be other action steps possibly as well. But that's why we do this work. And that's why, I'm being so guided to talk about our parts, because as I really, work with my clients, help my clients, have invite new people, kind of like magnetize new people to come to me as I'm now ready for that, right? Because now I'm more settled here. Now there's space. Now it's like, oh, okay, the doors of my shop are open once again, right? For new clients. And I'm really thinking about, what do I really help people with? And I realized, like, oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot I help people with, but absolutely one of the essential things is I help people recognize and identify what are the parts that are in the way, not so they can judge them and try to get rid of them, because spoiler alert, if you haven't heard me say this before, we can't get rid of our parts. You can get rid of other people's parts, and that'll be another transmission I'll do on that. But you can't get rid of your parts. You're not supposed to get rid of them. You're supposed to love them and get space from them and lead them. And so, we're going to go into a little short meditation on this. And I just want to say, before we do that, for you to know, because when I started this work, oh my gosh, when was that? I don't even, can't think right now mentally, but 14 years, I don't know how long I've been doing parts work. When I first found my first coach who introduced me to parts work and I started doing that, I remember in the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, this so resonates with me. I know I have different parts of me. That's so liberating to be able to say, oh, instead of like, I'm scared to do that, there's a part of me that's really scared to do that. So there was a lot of relief. And at the same time, there was a part that was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have a million parts. Like, this is gonna never end, or let me hustle and heal all these parts up, or get rid of the ones I don't like, or whatever I used to think. And now, having been doing this work for 14, 15 years, having, walked so many people through this work, I understand that it's not a linear process. That's one thing I want to say to you. So it's not like, okay, I healed this one part, but I have like 20 others. It's going to take forever. Nope, it's not like that. It's like, as you work with one, you work with all of them. This is good news. It's not a linear process, thank goodness. It's a quantum process, especially right now, as we're in such accelerated times. The Divine Mother needs her priestesses. She needs all of us to not be perfect or over all of our trauma or pain. That's just going to be part of our life journey. But to have enough space from these parts, loving space, to keep moving forward with courage, with boldness, whatever that looks like for you, without watering it down, without watering your medicine down. Your medicine right now, and really for the rest of your lifetime, this lifetime needs to be as potent as it is possible for it to be. It's like those, medicine, over the counter medicine, you get the extra strength, right? It's like your soul's medicine needs to be that. And it is that without us trying. It's not that, it's diluted when we don't have that practice and that commitment of connecting with our parts, because they create behavior, or they have thoughts, or they have trauma, or they have fears that keep blocking your soul's medicine. They can't block it fully, but it definitely dilutes it, and we just don't have time for that. And so I want to invite you, if this is resonating with you, if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I know there's more of my soul's medicine I'm here to share. I know that there are some parts of me that keep distracting me from it, or just so stuck in this old pain that I can't move forward, or so critical, or telling me that I'm behind, or I'm just helping so many other people. I never seem to get to my own thing. Those are just parts. And I would love to talk to you about that. You can go to my website. I'll put the link. And I offer a free 1-hour consultation, breakthrough consultation, where I will take you through this very powerful, compassionate, loving process to help you really identify what actually is getting in the way. And then if it feels like we're a good fit to work together, if it feels like I can help you with it, I'll share the details of my coaching program as well. So you can find that on my website, lisaespinosa.net. I'll put the link under free consult. Okay, so let's go into our meditation. I know this is gonna a little longer than normal, but that's okay. All right, so take a few cleansing breaths. So you close your eyes. Feel the earth underneath you. And I'm just gonna go into prayer. I just call on the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother that is unconditional love, is truth, is beyond any religious dogma or doctrine. We welcome her presence here. And we welcome her presence with you individually. That's the Divine Mother, right? She can be so intimate and also is here for all, for the collective. And so as you welcome her presence, perhaps you feel her in the form of Mother Mary, or in the form of Our Lady of Guadalupe, or in the form of Kuan Yin or Green Tara, or so many others. Or maybe it's just formless. You just connect with the Divine Mother who loves you unconditionally. And I just pray that we all can create some space, some loving space, unblend, as they say in parts work, from any parts that are making it hard for you to truly feel the love of the Divine Mother, to feel and know how much she loves you. And so as we are in this loving space with the Divine Mother, this space of truth, of sovereignty, of sobriety, of love, of compassion, of mercy, of grace, of grace, of grace, of grace, we welcome a part that needs your love right now. Just say that I welcome any part of me right now that needs my love. I welcome you to come forward. Any part of me that needs my love, whether it's an inner child, an inner teen, an inner adult part. Maybe this part shows up as a symbol, a rock, a wall. We're going to leave any judgment behind and just trust. Oh, there's the part. This part of me that needs so much love. And as you welcome that part of you, if this part feels comfortable, invite that part to come out in front of you. And what I mean is in your inner world, so your eyes might be closed, and in your inner world, this part shows up in front of you as a symbol, as an image. But you're not going to force anything right now. So if it wants to stay inside, that's okay. But you're welcoming this part that needs your love. And with the Divine Mother here present with all of us, with each of us, we're just going to allow that beautiful love of the Divine Mother, that unconditional love, to radiate, to bathe this part. Maybe you see it as beautiful light radiating, showering this part. Maybe you're just thinking it, you're just setting the intention. Yes, love to this part of me that needs so much love right now. And we're just going to trust that this part, whether it's able to receive the love right now or if it's going to receive it later, we ask your soul to be in charge. And so we ask your soul, we ask your higher self to integrate this transmission of love to this part through all 4 levels of your being: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, across all dimensions of time. And just receive a blessing from the Divine Mother for your courage. Even I'm hearing her say, even when you haven't felt courageous, those often have been the most courageous times. And we take a few cleansing breaths. We bring the palms of our hands together. We bow to each other in our own heart. And we begin. No, we end. We close this with a namaste. Namaste, everyone. Drink a little water. I often feel a lot of heat when I call on the Divine Mother. If there's anything you want to share, feel free to share in the chat or in the comments. And I said, if you want to schedule a free breakthrough consultation with me, you can just go to my website, lisaespinosa.net, and go under free. I think it says free session or free consult. I'll also put a link in the description. It would be my honor to talk to you, to connect with you. This will be over Zoom. And so I'm going to pull a card for you. Oh, not for each of you, for the group, because we already went over. That's okay. Thank you, Roxana and Jill, Holly Boy, Amy, and anybody else who's watching or anybody else who's catching the replay. All right, just a final message as we get ready to say goodbye for right now. Beautiful. Shaman, trust in higher forces. So what is a shaman? A shaman is walking that priestess path. Knowing that it's not just what we see with our physical eyes, but it's that non-ordinary reality, that reality across the veil. It's actually more real. So here we go. He's saying, trust in higher forces. See the owl, that compass, those feathers, and you meditate and see what this means for you. All right. Thanks, everyone. I will see you next time, and can't wait to connect. Bye, everybody.